Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today's video is a bit special since I wouldn't talk about Classroom Elite, but about a new series that I found recently. This light novel is called The Science Note by Delta and Gamma, and even though I only read the first volume, I really want to share my impression about this series. This series told the story about Izuta Sho, a first-year high schooler who heard about his school legend and decided to investigate it. By a series of coincidences, his classmate Iwama Rio joined him in his investigation, because according to the legend, students who witnessed two cherry blossom trees near the school forming a heart shape are destined to become a couple. At first it looked like a typical romantic comedy series, but after reading chapter by chapter, it soon became clear that this series offers more than a slow burn romance. Let's start with the protagonist Izuta Sho. At first glance there is nothing special about him. He is smart and has a decent amount of science knowledge, but honestly, he is the type of protagonist that you can find anywhere. On the contrary, the female protagonist Iwama Rio is a cheerful girl who is full of curiosity, so my first impression of this series is that it will be a romantic comedy between a gloomy otaku and the popular girl who is loved by anyone. Needless to say, that kind of story has become really popular these days, to the point I don't even bother to watch any of them, but I still decide to read this one. That first impression turned out to be true, but at least Izuta is not really a pathetic person or a loner with some weird philosophy. However, it turns out the aspect of romance is not really the driving force in the story. For starters, the school where they studied is a very prestigious school that is famous for its science department, so naturally science will be a frequent topic and also the source of problems. What makes this series unique is how the characters try to solve every problem and mystery around them using their science knowledge. This series gives a similar feeling to Science Falling in Love, but with the element of mystery just like Hyuga, and coincidentally that is the motto of our heroine, which is to prove everything scientifically. The first volume was divided into 5 chapters with 5 different plots revolving around their first month at school. However, the prologue and epilogue both took place in the future when they were already third years, so the entire volume is actually a flashback that Izuta has when they were still in their first year. Other than the first chapter, the story revolves around Izuta and the others who tried to join the science club, but since they are not the only people with interest, their journey took a very weird turn. Without spoiling too much, each chapter focuses on a few different aspects such as mystery, characters, or just a simple club activity, but everything is connected through a grand plan pulled by a few mysterious characters behind the scenes, without they even realizing it. One of the main selling points in this series is none other than the characters. The connection between the characters will become the major key for you to understand the story, because their relationship and their desire will turn into a conflict of interest that is really interesting to follow. Starting from the main character, Izuta Sho is practically an introvert glasses guy that you can find anywhere. But he is very smart with a high observation skill, which makes his thoughts and monologues fascinating to read since he is the main narrator of this series. His father works as a biologist, and he is often called Delta by the people around him, but other than that, there is not much to talk about him, which is understandable since we are still in the first volume. He is the typical introvert protagonist who only has one friend at the beginning, but other than that, he is pretty much a normal person who can communicate properly, and gets nervous when he's close with girls. Next we got his best friend Mizusaki Ryuichi, a typical rom-com protagonist best friend who usually exists to feed information for the main character. Mizusaki has quite a contrast in terms of appearance and personality with the main character, but despite the sun and moon contrast, they have gotten along ever since they were in grade school, maybe because they have a similar taste in science. However, Mizusaki's character is not really dominant, and most of the time he just exists as an extra or supporting character to give more spotlight to the main character. Since he is the one who always reaches out to Delta and even sets him up with the heroine, you can say Mizusaki is the type of character who is necessary, but not destined for a spotlight. Next we have the main female character, Iwama Rio. Even though this is only the first volume, we already got quite a lot of characterization and a bit of her background. To put it simply, Iwama is the type of girl who tries to live up to people's expectations. Her family and her friends want her to be a proper model student without any quirk that could push people away, even though Iwama is actually a science nerd. That kind of characterization surprisingly matches Delta's character, because since his father is a biologist whose life is surrounded by plants, Delta grows up to adore plants that live straightforwardly. The contrast characterization between main characters is quite common in any story, but connecting to people using a plant as symbolism is definitely a unique way to put them together. Next we got another potential heroine, Ai Mikage. Mikage is described as a cool beauty with a mature appearance and personality, but among the named cast in this series, she got the weirdest quirk with her massive brother complex. She loves mathematics as much as she loves her brother, which is why she developed a strange hatred towards Hana Nagisa, her brother's girlfriend. There is not much to talk about Mikage for now, but Hana Nagisa apparently brings this series to a whole different level. Despite her appearance as a classic gyro extroverted blonde, Hana Nagisa is the president of the chemistry club, which guarantees her intelligence and manipulation skills. She seems cheerful at the first glance, but deep down in her brain she holds a very calculative and wicked mind. Honestly, I really love how the writer put attention on his characters. As you can see, every single character design in this series is absolutely gorgeous, but what made them really unique is every single detail of their character actually became part of the story. For example, the reason why this series is called Delta and Gamma is actually a pun on the main characters' names. You see, if you put the name Izuta in kanji, it could be called Delta as an alternative reading, and if you put Iwama in kanji, it could be read as Gamma. Delta and Gamma are the third and the fourth alphabets in Greek, and coincidentally their seats are also the third and the fourth from the front. You probably think it's a very funny coincidence, but that is where the plot twist lies, and catches everyone by surprise. If this series only offers a mystery or romance between high schoolers, it will be lacking behind Hyoko or even Classroom Elite. But what caught me by surprise is how every little detail and coincidence that doesn't seem to be important at first turns out to play a lot of important parts in the second chapter. For example, the Delta and Gamma investigation seems like a coincidence, or at best it looks like Mizusaki just tried to set them up, but the more you flip the page, the more coincidences add up into one single suspicion. It turns out someone told Mizusaki about the cherry blossom legend, and somehow manipulated him to tell his friends about it. That single action led to Delta and Gamma becoming closer, and soon opened another path for them. What makes it special is that it's not just a one-time scheme, but just the beginning of an even bigger plan. Throughout this grand plan, you will see a lot of manipulation, mind games, and deception that feels so natural, crafted by a monster for a very wicked reason. The second chapter of the volume told us the story about how Delta and Mizusaki tried to join the science club, but without them realizing it, they were carefully guided into an option that was never part of their plan. Without spoiling too much, it's really fascinating to see how clean the mastermind strategy is. They have started their plan ever since the first day of school, and they really put everything into their calculation, starting from the atmosphere, the timing, and even the guilt inside humans' hearts. Everything was carefully planned, and even though they realized they were being played, that was also part of the plan. I cannot give you a full picture since I recommend reading it by yourself, but if you like a simple mystery with some fun facts about science, I am sure you will grow fond of this series. And if you love to see highly capable students polishing their abilities and competing with each other, some part of the first volume gives a clue that the school highly rewards students with capability, which means this school is actually a den of monsters. However, since I have not yet read more than the first volume, I cannot really say a lot about the last part. This series has the potential to become similar to Classroom Elite, but overall this is a really fresh story with smart characters who still feel ordinary. So far it only has 3 volumes with a manga adaptation that is still on its 4th chapter, and I assure you, you will not regret reading it.